Life after death. What happens when you wink out of existence? Is it the pearly gates? Is it the purgatory? Is it heaven? Is it hell? Is it a DMT dump into another universe? Or is it none of those? Because at the end of the day, we don't know. The boys from the Descending the Rabbit Hole podcast joined me in the refinery, and we decided to try and unpack life after death and what our perceptions and our thoughts and our processes were behind it. Because it is about process and belief systems, as it really is whatever makes you sleep better or understand the fragile existence that we have here on this planet. It was an interesting conversation. I really appreciate these boys coming out to the refinery and joining me and unpacking such a deep topic. As it's such a deep topic, I don't have too much more. I actually let the podcast speak for itself. It was actually a really good podcast. As always, thanks to Jono for the intro and thanks to Rowdy for the music. I think we'll go Bathe in the Sun and we'll finish with Plain Lady Jane. So I like that combination. It's a bit of an interesting times out there. I do have an unsupervised building in my mind. There seems to be a lot of chaos and bits and pieces going on all over the world and, you know, with, pretty much everybody that I know. So it's very interesting times at the moment. Make sure you buckle in and just hold on, ride it out. Stay true to yourself, stay true to the path, keep hustling, and remember it's all contrast, guys. You know what I mean? We've got to experience life and the ups and downs and the ins and outs in order to continue to push forward. Don't ever forget that. Look after yourselves, be cool. We'll talk soon. Cheers. G'day everyone, welcome back. Pleasure tonight to have the boys from the Descending the Rabbit Hole podcast in the refinery. How are you, boys?
Yeah, we're great, thanks. How are you?
Yeah, welcome to Pat. How you going, mate? Good?
Yeah, no, not too bad. Really keen to be on the podcast, explore everything.
Oh, you put your phone on. Yeah.
Look who that
Mine's
is.
on silent.
Harry Lax. He's a bloke who wants to be on our podcast, actually.
Yeah.
Oh, is he? Oh,
Yeah.
right. Rookie mistake, though. You can't. what do you
Rookie
say?
error.
Rookie
Have it
error.
on
So it's recorded now. It's forevermore.
That's it.
No, welcome, Pat. And you, Reagan, how are you, mate?
Yeah, I'm good.
Yeah.
Thanks for having us. This is a very humbling experience. I'm excited to be here.
No, it's my pleasure. It's my pleasure. So, the boys at the Descending the Rabbit Hole podcast are about 4 episodes in. You got a couple more in the bag as well.
Yeah.
And I suppose before we kick on, is it how you're finding the experience? It's obviously very brand new. You're only about a month or so in. How you finding it?
I think it's good. There's a lot to learn and there's a lot to understand about it. But I think that sort of helps you when you're going into another episode and stuff. Is that you can change the way you do and you focus on that a bit more, and then it helps develop the podcast itself.
Yeah, it's about, and each time you do it, you're exploring more and more. So what do you reckon, Pat? How you find it, mate?
Yeah, no, I think as long as we keep enjoying it,
Yeah.
which I don't think we'll ever not stop enjoying it, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
But as long as we keep enjoying it like we are right now, we'll be perfect. Because, the things we talk about on our podcast are things that we'd talk about, everyday sort of conversation.
And I think that's the key there too, boys, is that probably the best compliment that I've had about this podcast is that some of the listeners have told me that it's like they're sitting in the room with us.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like they're just sitting in that chair over there
Yeah.
and they're joining the conversation. And I think that's what you got to aim to do. You know what I mean? It's just got to be like you say, if you're doing it day to day, that's the normal conversation you have. I think that's all you can aim for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's to make people feel involved in it.
Bring that mic up a little bit too, mate. Yeah.
That way there,
Yeah. And, look, and you are right. You got to enjoy it. Make sure you do your research, do the topics you want to look at. You know what I mean? Don't be afraid to get other guests in to mix it up as well.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I think that's important as well.
Yeah.
And, best of luck. Best of luck and welcome to the podcastiverse or podcast universe or whatever it is.
Thank you. Yeah.
The world of podcasting. It's really good to sit down with you guys. But these boys, they don't fuck around. They're, I think they've done Space and Aliens, The Meaning of Life, God.
Yeah.
So don't mess around with your big topics.
Dive into them,
and again tonight we wanted to talk about pretty much the basis of all religions around the planet, and it's life after death. Is it real? Does anything happen? Because the reality is another one of those ones, is that we don't really know.
Yeah.
That's the reality.
Yeah.
We don't know.
No.
Yeah.
All right. We have people that say they've been to the other side and come back again.
Yeah.
There's certain things, obviously, the religious context across the world. The 72 virgins what am I trying to say, in Islam.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Heaven and hell. Saint Peter or Saint Patrick, who's measuring your soul, whether you go to heaven or hell. And there's obviously the gods and all these things. It goes on and on and on. However, the reality is that we don't actually know.
Yeah.
So I suppose before I give my opinion on it, I'd like to hear you boys. So, Pat, what you were telling us about before we started, I told you to just zip it a little bit.
Yeah.
So obviously, because we've been trying to do this for a few weeks, and we just had to the time had to line up, and we're here again. So you boys have been thinking about it. I've been thinking about it.
Yeah.
So where did you come at it from, Pat?
Yeah, so I've been really fascinated with Buddhists and the way they just in general see life, and how to take it head on. But yeah, they meditate every day. They're at peace with themselves, with the people around them, with the world, and they believe that by meditating and being at peace, you're able to reach nirvana at the end.
Yeah.
And that's just because they don't believe in an ultimate God, someone that rules over everyone.
No,
that's not something they go
it's
about.
energy.
Yeah.
It's energy based, is it?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
And it just fascinates me so much because they, it was 24 Buddhists have meditated to mummification.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
And that's just crazy to think about. They're laying in a coffin with a air tube, just meditating until they cease to exist in a being, in a human form.
So
Yeah.
theoretically, they have ascended.
Yeah,
That's how they go about it. They ascend their soul, or I
Their-
forget what they call it, but their
Yeah.
soul ascends into
Their life force.
yeah.
Nirvana, yeah.
So that's just a crazy way to think about it, because it takes away from the space and time theories of life
Yeah.
after death, and it just a bit more simpler form of thinking.
Definitely, yeah.
I think everything is energy, boys.
Yeah.
I think the reality also is that we don't know what's powering us. What
Yeah.
makes me Triff and you, Pat, you Regan. You know what I mean? We don't actually know that. They call that the hard question in physics and neurobiology
Yeah.
and neurology, is that they don't understand what actually powers us, what makes us conscious, and that it has to be a form of energy. So if you plug a multimeter into your skin, you register at 3 amps or some 0.3 of an amp. There's 3 milliamps. I don't know exactly, but you register. There's a electric current running through you, which is making you conscious. It's making you who you are. So the fact that you could transfer that energy into something else makes sense to me.
Yeah.
It's an interesting topic.
Definitely.
But you were coming at it from another angle, Regan. What were you talking about, mate? You're talking about the fact that as a young man, you used to ponder.
Yeah. I used to think when I was little, I think it's something that a lot of people go through as well. I used to struggle to sleep at night, thinking, about death and what it could be, and it'd cross my mind, whether is there something after death? And then, I'd think about, well, if there's a life after death, and if time is an existing thing, then are you going to live forever after that point? Are you going to eventually get bored of life after death? What's that going to feel like? Or if...
So you're saying if your energy transfers into another being or another existence, do you get sick of that? Is it just posing that question to yourself? Yeah,
exactly. Like, I'd think of heaven and hell, eternity as they describe it in the Bible, and you think, heaven is a beautiful place and stuff as they describe it, big pearly gates, but surely you'd get bored of that eventually, as beautiful as it is.
Everything can't be perfect.
Yeah, exactly.
There's no contrast. There's no balance there.
Definitely.
So I said, look, and so how did you resolve that, or is it something still that's ongoing?
I think it's sort of fueled my desire to look into these questions and these big sort of ideas, and then it's made me look into multiple religions and theories of what life after death could be. And I think that sort of helped me, knowing that it's something everyone goes through. You know what I mean? No one... It's the one thing that's inevitable for every single living organism, you know what I mean? It's the one thing that's 100%, everyone dies.
Can't beat Father Time.
No,
man.
exactly. It catches up on you eventually, and it's everyone goes through the same thing. And I feel like me being young and thinking about that, it's probably a bit different toward, if I'm a lot older and more mature, I'll think about it in a different way.
Yeah.
But I think it's important, if I look into it at a younger age and think about the different ideas of what it could be, then it might fuel that maturity and understanding of it when I'm older.
Absolutely. Well, you've got to gain as many perspectives as you can. And we were discussing that before we turned the mics on, the fact that you boys are only 18, and it's actually really awesome from my perspective to see you guys getting into this and seeing you question these things, because and being open enough to come and talk to myself and listening to multiple perspectives, because the more perspectives you can gain, especially from a young age, because you guys, you still got 7 years basically until your prefrontal cortex is fully developed.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So you guys are in that prime. If you want to learn stuff, this is the time to do it.
Yeah.
Because once you set your baseline at 25, you're constantly working back from that. And look, we're essentially, the reason we ask and the reason we pursue life after death is because we are questioning and understanding mortality.
Yeah.
Okay. And it depends, I think as little kids, like I've seen my kids do it with a dead bug. You know what I mean? Trying to explain that the bug's dead.
Yeah.
It doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah.
And that's the start of it. And you can there's a lot of fear there, because it's like, oh my God, everyone's going to die. Everyone I love's going to die. And because you're young, you don't have the concept that is what it is. You know what I mean? Your time will come. you know, and it's, you say you can't beat Father Time, you know. However, there's also there's periods that your mortality will come back and you'll see it from a different light. I mean, I lost my grandfather last year, and I was very, very close to him. You know what I mean? I didn't quite understand how close and how much he did influence my life until after he left.
Exactly, yeah.
And that's a whole different thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That for whatever reason, like, unfortunately, I've been to way too many funerals. However, losing him, he was always there. You know what I mean? And when you lose someone like that, then you start to question it again. You know what I mean? You start to question, well, where's he gone? You know what I mean? What did anything? Did he go anywhere, or is it, you know, is he just worm food? You know what I mean? Like, it's that, and, you know, I'm not trying to be disrespectful, however, that's the reality. You know?
Yeah.
And I suppose my belief system around it, and again, it's a belief system because it's what I would like to believe happens.
Yeah.
And that is that, and it's one that makes sense to me as well, is that I see this is our meat sack. You know what I mean?
A bag of meat.
Yeah, this is our meat wagon, right? However, what is powering this meat wagon is a universal energy.
Yeah.
You know, and that universal energy is what it is. It's universal energy.
Yeah.
I mean, we are all essentially space dust.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And when we slip off this mortal coil from this dimension, I think that energy goes back somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, because the universe wastes nothing. You know what I mean? Like, because at the end of the day, we are turned to ashes. You know what I mean? That helps things grow, or we line a box and we become worm food. You know what I mean? Grass is always green at a cemetery. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
definitely.
You know, but that's a use as well. You know, so I want to believe that our energy transfers to somewhere else. You know, and that where that place is and what that is, I don't know. I don't know. However, I'm actually cool with that. You know what I mean? Like, it's not, if we were supposed to know, we'd already know.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think, you know, those guys, as you say, they meditate to mummification. I have heard about that before. I'll have to dig into that. I can believe that.
Yeah.
Why not?
You know, there's like scientific evidence behind it. You know, the Soku Shimbutsu and stuff. You know, they pick it up and they see that the teeth still have, you know, elements of sort of not so much life, but you know what I mean. It's still
they're still
living.
alive. Yeah. The tissue's still living.
Exactly.
Yeah, because I think that's the whole idea behind it, is that, you know, you meditate and reach nirvana because you want to be. Nirvana's supposed to be like the better place, sort of thing.
Well, it's the next level. It's the next. You're upping your vibration.
Exactly. So you leave, you know, the body that you were in the best condition you can. And you know, you'll sort of be rewarded for that in a sense.
So I mean, look, on a lesser sense, not meditating to mummification, because that's pretty crazy shit.
Whole life.
Have you guys heard of like astral travel?
I've heard it, but I haven't researched it.
Yeah. So astral travel is like, there's lucid dreaming and there's like astral traveling, and you can actually train yourself to astral travel during meditation. Okay, there's a guy, his book's up there, Greg Doyle. I can do a few of his classes, and he talks about astral travel, and he says he's an astral traveler, and you can actually feel your body vibrate. And it's almost like you see it in the movies where the ghostly version of you pops out, and you're looking down upon yourself. You can actually train yourself to do that.
Like
so
an
that's
experience.
an out of body experience. You're separating your energy.
Wow.
So the fact that if you can do that, then obviously your energy is separate to who you are. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Now I suppose the question then would be, if we're talking about life after death, what's the essence? Do you know what I mean? What do you boys think? Is it obviously, there's a couple of different takes on it. Is that there's the soul of who you are,
Yeah.
and then there's the essence of who you are.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? A lot of people seem to think that they're two different things, because obviously, genealogically, through family heritage and family line, you have a certain dispositions, you have certain attitudes. You know what I mean? There's a genealogical profile that influences who you are.
Yeah.
But the universal essence, the universal energy of who you are, does that? Is that separate? You know what I mean? And and if it was life after death, what is returning to the source? Is the whole lot returning to the source?
Yeah.
Or is it is the legacy and the life after death actually your kids and the people that you've been around?
Yeah,
all that sort of
I
stuff?
get you.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure, because it's difficult to think about.
Yeah.
It is very
Because-
difficult to think about.
You know, like you were saying, there's so many different ways that it could be put.
Mm.
Yeah.
But then, like when people say, they speak about, past lives and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You have, I must have been, a chef in a past life because I'm a really good cook.
Yeah.
So it's stuff like that, with, it's not souls, but like your conscience, transporting to another body when you leave.
Yeah, so
sort of
you're and that's what we're sort of, and that's the difficult thing to try and categorize. It's like, so theoretically, if your essence, the universe is 4 billion years old or something
Yeah,
like that.
yeah.
So theoretically, everything, you boys would start talking about that with the Big Bang and stuff like that.
Yeah.
The interesting thing about the Big Bang is, so what happened the Tuesday before the Big Bang?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
However, theoretically, all life and all essence was created at once. So, and at the same time, new energy is created all the time as well.
Yeah.
So the essence of who you are, the energy source of who you are, was created at some point along that timeline. However, the other thing is too, is I think time is just a concept that we've agreed upon.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that's,
Time's relative.
Time is relative.
Yeah.
And it's like, I've been researching another one, and researching another podcast I'm going to put together. It's a long form one. It's going to be quite a few hours, so I'm not going to leave it. However, one of the things that I've sort of thought about is that, because I always say, we're on a big blue ball hurtling through space at 17,500 kilometres an hour.
Yeah.
However, there is no up in space.
There is no down as well.
There is no down. There is no time. Space is just existing.
Yeah.
Time exists on this rock because we've decided that it does.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
How many
in
times
fact,
we Greenwich Mean Time. The Brits decided what fucking time it was.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
that's the reality. That's the reality. They
Definitely.
decided what time it was. They did it obviously by the sun and all that sort of
Yeah,
stuff
yeah.
from midday, However, that's all, you could divide the day up to 36 hours and make them 45 minutes apiece, or you know what I mean? Like, there's so many different variations that you could do. So your essence, in essence, depending on when you were created, for want of a better term, you could be thousands of years old.
Oh yeah.
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 It just depends how you look at it.
Yeah, depends how you look at it. And then you try and grasp space. The fact that in this galaxy alone, I think there's now it's 100 million different possibilities or planets that are sitting within the Goldilocks zone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's in this galaxy.
Yeah.
And the galaxies are infinite. So if energy is infinite, everything's infinite. You are existing, across, even just within the universe, not talking about dimensions or anything else like that. You could be existing, you could have existed for God knows how long across God knows how many different variations.
Yeah.
If that's what we're talking about, if that's the essence that is powering you. Because, I mean, there is a question around that, Sometimes we have a proclivity to a certain task.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Depending on, or there'll be something that jogs our memory, like a past life experience or something like that. And when you have those things, the deja vus and that sort of stuff, you know what I mean? You know, I know the one that me and Benson like to talk about is the, you know, those little kids that when they old enough to communicate, they're like, oh, my name was Bill, I got killed here.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? By
Yeah.
this way, you know, this was my wife's name, and like they can't, there's no way they could know that
Yeah.
information.
Yeah, definitely.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, do we believe those stories? I think the thing is that there's two sides to it, right? Is it
Yeah.
you could look at it and say there's a lot of evidence of life after death,
Hmm.
or you could look at it and say there's very little of evidence of life after death,
Yeah.
and we want to believe.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely, yeah.
You know? So, I mean, so what's your take on that, Regan? What do you think about that, mate? I mean, what have you got to say about that train of thought?
Yeah, look, I think the way with that one is, you know, we think about life after death because there's evidence or there's not. You know, could we be blowing these little bits of information that we get out of proportion,
Yeah.
and, you know, misunderstanding what it actually is.
Yeah.
But I think you know, whether you believe it or not, it's still an interesting thing to look into. And if we're talking about like resurrection in that sort of aspect, and we talk about the universe not wasting life, you know what I mean? Two suns go supernova, they create was it the nuclear sun? I forget what they call it, but and then when those go together, they create a black hole, etc., etc.
Yeah.
You know, if let's say due to nature, you know, you look at how all animals die in nature, they just die and then they go into the grass and they rot away. Let's say that, you know, you do have an essence, there is an energy about you, because, you know, obviously there is an energy that has to be. Let's say when that dies, that's sort of passed on through nature and through the universe reusing you, whether, you know, you become, let's go, grass or a tree or, you know, all sorts of life.
You could be. You could be, you know, you could come back as a tree.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? Maybe, you know?
Yeah.
Who's to say you can't? I mean, and that's the thing about this topic, is that there's the variations that it could be are endless.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
And I think when you are, and that's the reason, it's the same, most major religions are based around that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, you know, I think it's Jehovah, there's 110,000 spots in heaven or something like that.
Yeah.
There's only X amount of spots, you know what I mean?
Get in while you can.
Yeah, get in while you can, you
Yeah.
know what I mean? You got to do a deal, or, you know, the heaven and hell, the purgatory, you know what I mean? The fear that we have based around that,
Yeah.
and the fact what is going to happen to us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's what fuels majority of religious texts, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like God will let you into heaven, but he's broke and he needs your money, you know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah,
Like,
definitely.
yeah.
The big
You
cash
know?
grab,
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly.
Definitely.
However, you know, that's what these people are essentially doing, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know, the Catholics are there, you know, just you know, confess your sins on your deathbed, get 3 Hail Marys, and you know, you should be right.
Yeah,
mate.
yeah,
And you go.
yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
how does that work?
Yeah.
Is it more? So let's step away from the energy side of things.
Yeah.
Okay. As far as this topic goes, and let's think about the mental side of things.
Yeah.
Because I think if we can answer this question in some way, shape, or form, it gives us comfort, doesn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
Because we know that it's going to be okay.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
However, I think a deeper understanding of self and a deeper exploration of self, it's going to be okay anyway.
Yeah.
You know, like
Yeah.
when my grandfather passed, I faced a lot of that stuff. You know, what's
Yeah.
going on? You know, this is all fucked. Blah blah blah. A lot of raft of different emotions. And years ago, I took my daughters down to see Granddad, and
Yeah.
one of them stamps their feet. Okay, Granddad taught them to do that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, in that sense, there is life after death.
Yeah.
Because forever, when she stands there and goes "Rrr," and stamps her feet, Granddad taught her how to do
Yeah.
that.
Just living on.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
so while we want to book our place in heaven, and I actually agree with you there too, Pat. I mean, everything awesome all the time.
Yeah.
I don't know about you boys, but after a certain amount of time, I'm going to want to kind of cause some shit. You
Oh,
know what I mean?
yeah,
You know what I mean?
definitely, yeah.
Let
Be-
loose a bit.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because it's like you can't. Everything can't be perfect. It's not. That's actually not life.
Yeah.
However, at the same time, so another variation on that is that our third dimensional existence, that we must have contrast.
Yeah.
Is that not what these masters of meditation? They're ascending past that. They're ascending past the physical. They're ascending past the bullshit
Yeah.
and becoming one with the universe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where
Essentially.
none of that matters.
Mm.
Yeah. Definitely.
You know what I mean? So it's. So what do you think? Do you think it gives us comfort? Do you think that's why these religions are so popular? Do you think that's why people are so willing to part with their...
Yeah, no, definitely, especially with religions. Like, you hear a lot of stories of people saying that a certain religion has saved their life.
Yeah.
Whether that's through praying or meditation or the environment
Community?
in general.
Community,
Yeah, the community, yeah.
Look, I suppose obviously we're a little bit of a different path. However, this is the rabbit hole as right.
Descending it.
Religion, in its essence, there's actually nothing wrong with it.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, the sense of community, and if having faith gives you
Comfort.
strength
Yeah.
and comfort,
Yeah.
and being part of that community and part of that tribe,
Yeah.
I'm totally cool with that.
Yeah.
Me too.
I'm
100%.
totally cool with that. If that's
Definitely.
if that's what anyone wants to do, and I don't. But the thing is, I'm totally cool with whatever religion you want to choose as well.
Mm.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
there was hundreds of them. And there has been for a long time. You
Yeah.
know, the cross won out. However,
Yeah.
you know, there's a million different religions that have existed since the beginning of time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, and
Definitely.
the reality is, the Christian faith is a variation of the sun worshippers from Egypt. But that's a whole different story. However, religion in its essence is not a bad thing.
No.
No. Yeah.
Obviously, the goings on of the Catholic Church over the last
Yeah.
little while have not been a great. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
there's some
yeah.
darkness there, but I think that darkness is fed by greed.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Materialistic values.
Yeah. But I cut you off. Sorry, Pat. You know what I mean? As far as
Yeah.
religions
Yeah.
go, you finish your thought pattern, mate.
Yeah, no, I think like you said, it's not a bad thing. But you know, that's again how it's interpreted, especially with social media.
Yeah.
A lot of religions, you know, a bit of a money scheme sometimes.
Yeah.
And that sort of takes away from it. Especially the people that are, you know, really passionate about it, and are really in it just for the religious sort of things, to be at peace with themselves and their family sort of thing. But yeah, I guess it just really does depend, because that's where it sort of splits the line for Buddhism and, you know, Christianity, for example. You know, Buddhism, you don't hear, you know, hardly anything about it on the social media. It's not really a money scheme, you know, that you don't see them going around with bloody money bags, anything like that. They're just, you know, their own community at peace with themselves.
I think,
and that's why I appreciate Buddhism a little bit more.
Yeah, definitely. I think that also reflects like truly believing it to a point. You know, I think a lot of people might take, you know, Catholicism and stuff, and they believe it to an extent, but don't fully invest themselves in that belief. But I think most people that turn to Buddhism thoroughly believe it to the point that they will spend 13 hours a day meditating, you know what I mean? And they will practice that their whole life because of a true belief.
And look, I suppose you could attach that to a lot of different faiths and a lot of different disciplines as well.
Yeah.
I think the issue there though is that if you have to, and this is, as I say, religions at their base, got no issue with them at all. If having faith gives you faith and strength, then
exactly.
peace and love. You know what I mean? I don't care. However, at the same time, if you have to have that much faith in something else, you don't have enough faith in yourself.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
100%.
As much as you want to believe it sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, And however, having faith in yourself is also very difficult as well.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I do recognise the struggles on it, I don't take away from any of the people that, as you say, religion has saved them and that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
However, what do you think that drive is? Because like people give over their hard-earned cash. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
To a furthest point, like, you know, obviously, Granddad's on my mind with this. You know what I mean? Because that's the latest big question I've asked about life after death. You know, what's happened to him? You know what I mean? However, he used to tell a story that, you know, him and Nan had 6 kids. You know, back in the 40s and 50s. You know what I mean? And the church wanted him to give more money. And he's like, I've got 6 kids. Like, I can't give you any more money. So, well, you're not. Then you can't be part of the church. And he said, well, that's cool.
Yeah.
See you later. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know, I don't actually need that. You know, I'm working hard for my kids. I don't think that should be a barrier of entry. You know what I mean?
No, exactly. Yeah.
Isn't it supposed to be? You know, true faith and true religion should be welcoming of all people, regardless of your stance or your pile of gold, I suppose.
Yeah, and I think that's what it all, initially was.
It was absolutely, yeah.
You know, anyone, any shape, any color, any background, you know, no matter what they've done, God is supposed to be forgiving of that. And flip a new page for that, that being of life. So I think that's been taken away a little bit, unfortunately. But it shouldn't. With that story you were just telling, that shouldn't ever happen, especially if someone's, used that religion to help them throughout their lives.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, definitely. I think in that case, if they truly believed it, then the sort of the religious aspect should see that Western civilizations created this materialistic need to provide, and so
consume.
Yeah, exactly. And they could have stood back and said, all right, for that man to provide for the life that he's created, he needs this money. It's our duty to allow him to have that, but still give him the respect that he needs.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? And that's what they haven't done.
But that seems to be a lot of Catholicism type stuff. I've heard that a few different times. I suppose, and let's step away from bagging the crap out of
I was just thinking of that.
Yeah. Is it about, so why are you willing to, so for those people that do that, they do buy their way into heaven, so to speak.
Yeah.
Is it the sacrifice?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Is that how you, because there's no better thing to do than to help others.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? If you want to feel the best about yourself, you got to help others. You know what I mean? Yeah. That's like, then that's, from my perspective, that's why you boys are here now. You know what I mean? I wanted to have you in the studio and, have a good time, to have a good conversation. So you must give something to get something.
Yeah.
You know? However, that, for want of a better term, the rich man that buys his way into heaven, whoever, takes 10 lives to get there, you know what I mean? Or fucking destroys 1,000 lives to get there. If God was God, and actually there's an interesting Conversations with God, there were some books on the shelf there, they're pretty interesting, where that's a different story. However, you read that, and that's an Neil Donald Walsh's interpretation of he was having a conversation with God. You read that, and he's like, that your materialistic gain or anything that you give has actually got nothing to fucking do with whether or not you get into heaven, so to speak. It's actually your character. You know what I mean? It's your balance sheet. What have you done good and what have you done bad?
Yeah.
And I think it's been shifted to, as you say, materialistic, capitalistic stuff, as opposed to the true energy of self.
Yeah, definitely. I think touching on the idea of God and stuff. I was talking to Pat about this on the podcast, and if we think about God being this one being as such, whether he's a spirit or whatever, we think of him as a being. How can one being create the rules for everyone to sort of get themselves into heaven, but not create balance in everyone's mind? You know what I mean? So for someone who doesn't truly think that what they're doing is good, or someone who thinks that what they're doing is good, you know, on a very true value within themselves, but God deems that as bad, and now they're going to get a help because, you know, even though in their head they thought that was good, even though, you know, figuratively speaking, you know, God gave them that head as such, you know what I mean, gave them the brain and the life to think like that, you know, but he's still going to be sent to hell because he hasn't sort of overcome that, you know what I mean. I think speaking of that, I've been looking into that idea, and I sort of think that heaven and hell might, if we're talking about that metaphorically in the afterlife, heaven and hell might be, you know, when one's own conscious as such, you know what I mean. So if you've done stuff throughout your life that's bad and you thought that was good, or if you've done stuff,
but who's to say? Who's to say what's good and what's bad?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? That's a difficult one. I'm talking with another mate of mine about morality.
Yeah,
we're going to do a podcast about morality, and we've been discussing that. Where does your morals, your set of morals come? Is there a base set that is within you? Like, is there a base human set of morals that you have a ledger sheet, a balance sheet, you know, or is it situational and circumstantial and cultural and all those sorts of things? Because, you know, something may be morally right in your culture that in another culture that us as Australians would go, what the fuck are you doing? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
However, to them it's morally right.
Yeah.
And like you say, it's bad through our eyes, but good through their eyes.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Whereas stuff that we do might be bad through their eyes, good through our eyes and bad through theirs.
Well, that's the thing. Like, we've made certain rules. Like, if you go and slap someone, it's, you know, classified as a bad thing because it produces pain upon that person, because pain is not a good feeling, and therefore that's a whole, you know, bad action to do. But slapping someone in another world or whatever could be a compliment. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely.
Well, that's true in a different cultural situation, or your mate's drunk and you need to fucking pull his head in.
Yeah.
Give him a quick slap around.
Slap.
Yeah,
That's it.
Exactly.
You know, and that's actually a good thing at that stage, because there's a chance they might come around.
Yeah.
So I suppose, okay, do you boys believe in heaven and hell? What's your interpretation? If there is life after death, what happens?
I've got a little theory that I've thought up about that, because I've been listening and reading a lot about Terence McKenna, and Graham Hancock as well. You know, especially in Graham Hancock, I watched one of his TED Talks talking about ayahuasca drink and DMT and stuff, and he thinks that DMT has something to do with the afterlife, and a lot of people think that. And, you know, I really thought about that and looked into it, you know, the stoned ape theory and everything like that, how you know, they believe that it has affected consciousness, you know, psychedelics and the mushrooms at the chemical base are very similar to DMT. But, you know, if we think about that, I've thought about what if, you know, just after they've proven DMT stored in the rat's brains, you know, in the pineal gland, and in a lot of religions, you know, DMT is a pretty big deal. Yeah, the
Eye of Horus, just right there, mate. That's exactly the shape of the DMT.
The pineal gland, and then Zeus, you know, looking at the burning acacia plant, and you know what I mean, highest DMT concentrate, and a lot of this stuff that has affected religion in a big way. And then a lot of people that, you know, they do DMT and then they thoroughly believe that that's the afterlife. I thought about that and I thought
Moses.
That's the one, not Zeus. Moses.
Yeah, Moses talking to the acacia plant. He was like blazed out of his mind.
Yeah.
That's where
tripping
he got the
on
Ten
DMT.
Commandments. That's where he got the 10 Commandments from.
Yeah. But I thought about that, and, you know, I looked into, you know, the ideas in these studies within physics, you know, time being relative and stuff like that. I thought about, well, you know, what if you die, you know, and they believe as you die you get a DMT dump. This way, if you're pinned up, they bring your family, all this sort of stuff. What if as you die, you know, your body gets big dump of every stored bit of DMT in your pineal gland gets released, your body dies, you cease to exist in this physical reality, you cease to exist in time. So then during that dump of DMT, all of infinity shrinks into one moment. You know, not even one moment. But if we think of that, then, you know, you're tripping on DMT in that one moment. It's almost like you're now stuck in a trip. You know, not like stuck in a trip, but you know what I mean? In that aspect of speaking. And then if we're speaking of heaven and hell, a lot of people talk about when they do go into these, DMT trips and stuff, they reflect upon who they've been in before they've done it. I think heaven and hell, you're not going to be in a good mental place if you haven't, been a good person as such, on a true level that you believe, or if you truly believe you have been a good person, you know what I mean? You're going to be in a good mental state while you're in, the afterlife as such. I think that's a pretty cool way of looking at it.
Yeah, that's really good. That's actually really fascinating. Well, I think we fear death because, and from a religious context, they fear death because they fear of how they will be judged.
Yeah.
And if you give energy to something too, I mean, there is a lot of power behind the cross, and the reason there's a lot of power behind it is because billions of people believe in it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If you're giving something energy.
Yeah.
And then, there's an interesting concept, is that does heaven and hell exist for those people because they're tapped into
that belief,
that belief system, that energy. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely.
And look, I think, like as I say, there's a lot of animals and stuff that do a DMT dump as well.
Yeah.
They go limp and they just accept it. You know what I mean? When some people that have pretty much died in the ice, they experience euphoria before they die.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They die with a smile on their face. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's your body's way of allowing you to let go.
Yeah.
Or giving you the easiest exit. And a lot of people do describe DMT trips like being blasted into the universe.
Yeah.
So maybe your energy is returning to the source.
Yeah.
That's an interesting concept for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
What do you reckon, Pat? So do you believe in heaven and hell?
Well, that's difficult because for me, growing up, most of my family was and is Christian.
Yeah.
Not, heavily into it where, you can't swear, can't do this, or, you get lashes for sinning, that sort of thing.
But they went to the church.
Went to church, prayed, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
But through that, I took my own interpretation of it. Like when I pray, not that I do it every night or anything like that, but when I do pray, I sort of pray to like an ultimate being version of myself.
Mm-hmm.
The one that knows and has experienced everything.
Yep.
Trying to get advice from that, if you know what I mean.
Yep.
So whether that connects to heaven and hell, I don't really. But then when you do something bad, your mind sort of, thinks why I shouldn't have done it. That's a bad thing. And doing bad things connects to hell. So it's weird to think about. But yeah, I've got a few different viewpoints on that. I guess it just sort of depends on the mindset you're in
at the time.
Yeah.
At the time. I suppose from my perspective, do I believe in heaven and hell? Not the literal version that we're given.
Yeah.
As far as religious context has gone, only because we don't even know what the original Christian texts were. They were translated from Hebrew to Latin to Greek.
Yeah. And
in Hebrew, letters and numbers mean the same thing. So what it actually meant, we still don't know. There's that many different versions of it. However, so with what you said, Regan, I do agree. I would like to think that that's how it happens.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
You are released back into the universe.
Yeah.
However, I don't see it. I know you've spoken about it on your podcast about the fact that you sort of talk about it like it's a purgatory. I don't think it is, or it would be.
Yeah.
I think you are. I mean, the thing is, there's a theory that's postulated that the light at the end of the tunnel is actually the vaginal canal. So actually, you end one life. And you enter another.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But you can't take everything with you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's how you get some past life regression, is that you're carrying some of that energy and essence from the last time you were here through. Or you may sit in infinity for...
Yeah.
Well, that's what you were talking about before with the story of the boy being born and knowing every memory of, a soldier.
Yeah.
I think that's where that comes in. The soldier dies, is being born into that another life and still has those few memories.
And I think that, little kids are interesting as well. Like there was the classic story where the little sister goes into his little brother and the mother's listening over the intercom, and the little sister whispers to the little brother, "Can you remind me about heaven?
Yeah,
I'm beginning to forget."
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, I can't remember, like, because theoretically they are closer to the source.
Yeah, to
you
the
know what I mean?
Aether,
Like,
yeah.
you know, and I think if you don't live a life of, if you don't try and live your best life, as you get older, you're getting further away from the source
Yeah.
and closer to death.
Yeah.
So fear of death then comes into it.
Yeah, definitely.
You know what I mean?
But then again, as you get older, you're getting closer to becoming young again. If you know you're going through, as you dying, you're coming out of.
If you believe that,
Yeah,
version,
exactly,
for sure. You know what I mean? And it is a tough one, boys. You know what I mean? You can the thing is that we can only postulate.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
You know,
Yeah.
and I suppose it's whatever. It is whatever helps us sleep at night.
Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely.
that's what it comes down
Yeah,
to.
whatever
That's what it
makes you
comes down
comfortable.
to. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I did want to touch on, because I heard you talk about you talking to your higher self,
Yeah.
and that's actually a very, very good practice. You know, and I believe that as well.
Yeah.
You can actually talk to your higher self.
Yeah.
You can ask them questions, and you can get answers. And it's not about. It's a little bit of askew, the life after death, and it's something that we've spoken about on the podcast before, myself and Frank and stuff like that.
Yeah.
However, that's actually your ultimate guidance. And that higher self, if something was tapped into the universal energy, that's what is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And if you think about we go back to what he's talking about, the Buddhists, theoretically, I would say they are becoming their higher selves.
Yeah.
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 Through meditation and understanding of their physical body as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, and there's been a lot of studies done of elderly people and people that are terminally ill, giving them psilocybin mushrooms.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
And they're obviously terrified of death because they're dying. There's nothing they can do about it, that sort of stuff. They take those, they have a decent trip and
Yeah.
they're ready to let go.
Yeah.
You know,
Makes them
because I mean
comfortable.
those sorts of substances used in the correct set and setting and the correct dosage and all those
Yeah,
sorts
yeah.
of things can show you that it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? You must do your best in this existence, in this world, to help others and help yourself and be the best version of yourself you can be. And however, there is life after death. As I say, you know, we pass it on through not just our children. However,
Yeah.
I know you boys have been mates for a long time. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? You know, God forbid if something was to happen to either one of you,
Yeah.
bless and cancel. However, you would still live on in each other.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
You know
yeah.
what I mean? Like, I think if you can truly see that, and it's difficult to see, especially when you're losing loved ones and,
Yeah.
you know, those sorts of things. However, if you can understand that, that'll make it easier.
Yeah.
And, you know, for some reason, the thing about life after death for me is that the one that's always rung true is death is only the beginning.
Yeah.
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 You know what I mean? However, you got to live your life as well. You can't live your life in fear.
Yeah, definitely.
A life lived in fear is a life half lived.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? Like, we could sit in the corner all day and freak out about all the things that could happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
However, you want to, you know, when we do slip off this mortal coil, and hopefully it's in many, many years to come,
Yeah.
that we can be at peace.
Definitely.
Yeah, definitely.
You know what I mean? You got to try and live your life so you are at peace
Yeah.
with that. And it's so difficult to be, though. You know what I mean? It's like we can sit here in the refinery, we were nice and comfortable and
Yeah.
discuss these things. However, if we were faced with something terrible happening to a loved one,
Yeah.
you might have very, very different thoughts on it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
However, the more perspectives you can gain, I think the better off you'll be.
Yeah, definitely.
You know?
Definitely.
And I do hope that I want something to happen. However, at this stage in my life, I'm cool if it doesn't.
Yeah.
Because this life, the one that we live in now, the one that we're existing in right this very second,
Yeah.
is fucking awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
it really is. And you must truly remind yourself of that.
The beauty of it.
The beauty
Yeah.
of it, and the love and the compassion. Look, and there's a lot of really, it's interesting times. It's weird times at the moment. There's a lot of upheaval going around in, like, everywhere you look. You
Yeah.
know. However, these are the times we need to remind ourselves that it's cool. You know?
Yeah.
And we have to. And if it's your time, it's your time.
Yeah.
And it's tough to say.
Yeah.
Especially when
definitely.
if there's people involved that you love. However, no one beats Father Time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's inevitable.
Catches up on you eventually.
Eventually, yeah.
Yeah.
You know, and you may as well have a good time. However, everything in moderation, including moderation. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yep. That's the thing. That's what people lose as well. They
Yes.
lose that moderation.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's. They lose the moderation because the existence we've created for ourselves at the moment is monotonous and boring and shit, and we're all living and existing in a place that doesn't fulfill us and doesn't give us satisfaction.
Yeah. Definitely.
You know,
Definitely. Yeah.
you know, and that's why you must. That's why I'm a big advocate of, like, yeah, sure, okay, you know, we're material girls in a material world, to quote Madonna. However,
Yeah.
what are you doing for yourself? You know what I mean? I
Yeah.
always talk to guys about that, and girls, like, what are you doing for yourself? You got to make sure you're doing something for yourself. Sure, you got to pay the bills. You know what I mean? You got to do what you got to do.
Yeah. Definitely.
However, what are you doing apart from that to actually feed your soul?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know,
And make yourself happy.
and make yourself happy,
Yeah.
or content. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? I
yeah.
think happy is important. However,
Mm.
content, I think, is more important.
Yeah, I
If you can sit there and be comfortable and content
Yeah. Definitely. I
With-
think.
with what you're doing, you know.
Yeah. Talking on, like, being content and happiness. I like to see it as a line. You have sort of being content,
Mm-hmm.
and then you do something that your brain produces happy chemicals. You become happy. You sit above that line,
Yeah.
and then but you always got to come back down.
Mm.
And then some people who are genuinely not happy or not content with themselves,
Mm.
that sort of content line sits lower.
Yeah.
But there are ways that rise it up and just make you feel better, day to day. And then when bad stuff happens, you always you'll go back down, but then you always rise up again, and you'll always feel better eventually.
And that's a really good way to look at it, mate. And I think life doesn't exist without contrast.
Yeah.
Like, as I say, there seems to be a lot of chaos going on at the moment. However, at that same time, we must have moments like these.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
sitting in the studio, having a cool conversation, good company.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We must take these moments.
Yeah.
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 It doesn't mean you don't acknowledge what's happening around you. It doesn't
Yeah.
mean you don't have an understanding of the pain that people are feeling and all those different things. However, we must still live life.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And whatever happens, happens. I think that's the reality.
Yeah.
Well, boys, I think we're about done on this one. I think
Yeah,
there's too much more to say, unless you guys have got anything else you want to share on this topic. I mean, it's one of those things that we could go round and round on it for the
definitely.
next 200 years.
Yeah, so
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's one of the biggest questions philosophers and religions have tried to answer for a long time. And
That's it.
the reality is, until someone actually goes and definitely comes back, anything's possible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think this one's
Yeah.
like an infinite rabbit hole.
Yeah.
It never ends.
It never ends. Well, it does, and that's the thing. It does.
Yeah,
end. What
yeah.
happens when it ends?
Yeah,
you know?
yeah,
Yeah.
we don't know.
That's what
you know,
we're
yeah.
questioning.
That's the
Yeah,
question.
that's it.
So I don't know, boys. First time guests. I'll ask you both for a final statement. So, Reagan, what's your final statement?
I think that death is something that's scary in many ways, but I think it's important to sort of understand that it's going to happen. It's inevitable.
Mm-hmm.
Whether life after death exists or not, whether this happens or this doesn't happen, it's important to allow yourself to be comfortable with that idea, because death is something that every living organism faces no matter what.
Yeah.
You're not alone in that struggle or in that concept of death. But I think it's also important to sort of expand your mind and learn about other things and other beliefs on it, so that way not so much you're more comfortable with it, but that way you allow yourself to understand these ideas on it more, and then it will better your sort of your mind, and then it will make you feel more comfortable with the idea, I guess.
Yeah, that's good. You've always got your multiple perspectives, man.
Yeah.
You got to gain as many perspectives as you can, and then whatever happens, and you can roll with it as best you can.
Yeah,
That's really
Yeah.
good.
definitely.
What about you, Pat? What's your final statement, mate?
Oh, final statement. I reckon, on this topic that we've been talking about, life after death, when you ask someone that question, some people say it's nothing, but saying that it's nothing implies that there's no thing, which also implies that there is a thing. We just don't know what that thing is.
Yes.
Yeah, definitely.
So that's what we've, still got to figure out. So it's fascinating.
Yeah. Awesome, boys. Well, look, thanks very much for coming out. And
That's it.
as I say, I don't think this is our first podcast together. I don't think it'll be our last one.
Yeah, definitely.
And I'll get the audio to you boys, and I'm probably going to release this one tomorrow, and you boys do it whenever you feel the need to. If
Yeah,
you want to release
definitely.
it tomorrow as well, it doesn't
Yeah.
hurt. You know what I mean? And we'll go from there. But yeah, thanks very much, boys.
No, that's all right.
Yeah,
Thanks
we
for having
definitely
us.
appreciate you having us on.
It's a very humbling experience to talk about this with you. Thank you very much. Yeah.
Not a problem, boys. Anytime. All right, everyone. Thanks very much. Hope everyone learned some stuff and open their minds a little bit. Look after yourselves. Be cool. We'll talk soon. Thanks, boys.
That's all right. Thank you.
Peace.